When did you first move to Freeport? I understand you were born in northern New Jersey in 1933.
Yeah. Yeah, I was born in New Jersey, and we lived in a rental house in Glen Ridge, New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
until my father's job was moved from Manhattan to Brooklyn, and Brooklyn was a lot easier to get to from Freeport than from New Jersey.
Got it. So you moved to Freeport in 1938?
That's right. 1938, moved to Freeport in August of 38.
And you went to Columbus Avenue School?
Um, we lived at 68 North Columbus Avenue, which was about 2 blocks from Columbus Avenue School.
Understand. So I read that you said that there was an electric generating plant on Sunrise Highway around them.
Yeah, there was a municipal power plant, generated electricity. I suppose that's gone by now.
Yes, unfortunately. But was Jones Beach a part of your upbringing?
Yeah, we went to Jones Beach almost every day the first 3 summers that we lived there. And as I recall, when the war started and gas rationing came in, we didn't go quite so often. We probably still went, but not that often.
So one of the things I read is that Guy Lombardo is somebody you saw perform at Jones Beach. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Sir Lombardo. Well, it wasn't his band usually, but he, I think, produced some of the shows they put on at Jones Beach.
Interesting. And now there's the street named after Guy Lombardo. He's one of the most famous residents ever of Freeport. Did you ever encounter anyone from his family or meet anyone from his family?
No, I I haven't had any contact with Lombardo or anybody from his family since I left Freeport. I got his biography, and I was very interested in Miller racing engines, which he had in his speedboat. But no, I haven't been in contact with any of them. I went to hear his band playing at the Rainbow Room in New York when I was in college. But that's all wound up a long time ago.
I did read that you knew Dick Schaap. That's correct?
I saw his boat when it was essentially mothballed for the war, and then I saw him afterwards when they raced at Jamaica Bay, and I have seen it since at the Speedboat Museum up on the St. Lawrence River.
Well, one of the things I'm very interested about is you remember Freeport Stadium, and that was an early home to racing, minor league baseball, professional wrestling. What are some of the events you attended at Freeport Stadium?
Yeah, first time I went to Freeport Stadium was when my father took me when I was, I guess, 8 years old to watch the midgets run. At that time, the track was cinders. They paved it in 1941. The municipal stadium was quite a stadium. They had a baseball field and various leagues. There was a Jewish baseball league that played there. There were a lot of things that went on at the stadium. Of course, the high school played football there. The police had a shooting range there. It was a busy place.
Did you ever see professional wrestling or boxing at the stadium?
Say that again?
Did you ever see professional wrestling or boxing at that stadium?
No, I didn't see boxing or wrestling.
You yourself were a reporter and a journalist. Did you cover events as a journalist at the stadium?
Well, I covered the high school football games for the school paper. I covered some other sports events for the Nassau Daily Review Star. Uh, I covered the racing to some degree for the race papers. They didn't pay anything, but there
Hmm.
was Illustrated Speedway News and National Speed Sport News. Um, and both Dick and I covered the racing for those publications. Dick Schaap.
And, and you were able to use those articles, that coverage to land future jobs, correct? Like when you worked for the Chicago American, you used your portfolio from Freeport?
I didn't quite understand that. I went to the Chicago American after I got my graduate degree in journalism from Columbia University.
Hmm.
That would have been 1958. Um, I was long gone from Freeport by that time. I was living in New York and looking for work because I had been drafted in the Army. I got out of the Army and I was looking for a job.
Interesting. So the work that you did for the Freeport newspaper, do you still have any of that work or has it been digitized?
Well, I sent your library some microfilm of Nassau Daily Review Star. Uh,
Hmm.
in the stuff that I have already sent to the library, there were probably clippings from the Leader and from the Review Star. I'm not just sure. I didn't keep a detailed uh, list of all that, but
Okay.
it was what was called being a stringer
Yes.
to do the kind of writing that high school students did for the local papers.
Okay. What do you remember about Freeport with regards to stores and restaurants? Was it an exciting place to live?
Uh, well, I thought it was an exciting place to live at that age. I can't remember much about restaurants. We didn't eat out very often, uh,
Hmm.
if at all. Uh, and I was too young to go to nightclubs or what passed for that until I got to college. Um, but there was a lot going on in Freeport, and especially I remember during the war, uh, there was war work. There were, I think, Navy people uh, out on the beaches, Jones Beach and other beaches.
Hmm.
As you probably know, the Germans landed saboteurs from submarines at one point along Long Island. They got caught pretty quickly. Um, but when the war first started, the German submarines were sinking ships within sight of Long Beach.
Hmm.
Uh, we hadn't learned to set up convoys by that time, and the Germans had what they called the happy time, and they did a lot of damage in 42 and early 43. There were artillery spotting towers along the beach.
Hmm.
The Germans tried to invade, which of course that was unlikely and never happened. I remember climbing up into one of those towers. It was about 100 feet tall, and just for the hell of it, a couple of us kids climbed up there.
Hmm.
Um, I think I may have mentioned that Columbian Bronze made propellers for naval vessels.
Hmm.
I think that was up North Main Street. I don't suppose they're there anymore. Uh, my father went down Monday morning, the 8th of December 1941, joined the volunteer fire department, and he was a air raid warden during the war. Went around, made sure
Hmm.
everybody had their lights blacked out, so on. Yeah, World War II made a big difference. That was very exciting. The planes flying over on their way to Europe, 43 and 44.
Hmm.
There was training going on from Mitchell Field. Um, yeah, World War II was a big thing in my young life. I
I
had relatives in the war. Uh, that was a big thing. Um, what else can I tell you?
Well, when I talk about the stores in town, do you remember Barish's, the children's clothing store?
No, the store I remember most was Foreman's hardware store and lumberyard. Because I
Hmm.
would build things. Actually, I built a small boat, but I didn't get it tight enough, so it leaked. But pigeons, racing pigeons, and I would buy lumber and hardware from Foreman's hardware store. That's what I remember mainly. There was a Woolworth, but
Hmm.
other stores I didn't really remember very well.
Do you remember the Freeport Mall?
No, I think the mall came along after I left. When they closed off Main Street to cars and so on, that
Yes.
all happened after I left. Uh,
Yes.
that wasn't there.
So have you come back to Freeport in recent years? What I read was that you spent your senior high school year in New Jersey, but did you come back over the years?
Well, I really didn't like the idea of moving
Hmm.
and spending my last high school year somewhere else where I didn't know people. But I got to know people. That that worked out all right. I came back a number of times to see people, uh, and I was very interested in racing and in Bill Schindler, who was a noted race driver in the midgets and later in sprint cars. And I went to Indianapolis in '52 as part of his pit crew.
Hmm.
He was killed in the fall of '52 at Reading, Pennsylvania, in a racing accident. Uh, let's see, what else can I tell you?
Well, do you still follow racing today?
Yes, but much less. I'm not as interested in. I'm not really interested in NASCAR. I was
Hmm.
disappointed when the stock cars beat out the midgets. Midget drivers were always arguing and fighting for more money from the promoters. Jake
Hmm.
Kettenberg, promoter at Freeport, but the stock car guys, for the most part, just
Hmm.
wanted to go out and run into people. Uh, they didn't argue about money. They would have run for nothing for the fun of it. But the midget guys were very argumentative. And all over the country, midget racing was very popular. 46, 47, a little less than 48, and by the mid 50s, it almost disappeared. It's come and gone since then. There's not much midget racing anymore.
Hmm.
But I followed sprint car racing and then Indianapolis. As I say, I've written 7 books on the history of racing. Uh, one on the Offenhauser engine sold 18,000 copies. I was reasonably happy with that.
Yeah.
Not living on it, I have to say,
Yeah, right. Right. Writing books has never been lucrative in any era, unfortunately.
unfortunately. Um, but I made a career out of the newspaper business. My parents took me to see the movie The Front Page
Hmm.
in 1940, maybe. I think it came out in '36. And that probably started my interest in newspapers. And I
Hmm.
read all the books and accounts that were then very popular about uh, newspaper reporters. Um, I wanted to be a newspaper man. At one point, I wanted to be a news photographer, but when I got to Washington, I found that news photography was a contact sport, and I ended up being more of a writer than a photographer.
Yeah. Do you remember which movie theater you saw the front page at? Was that in Freeport?
I'm sure it was.
Right now, I don't believe Freeport has any movie theaters. Was that the one that is near Sunrise Highway? Any idea?
They had two theaters, as I recall. One was on Sunrise Highway. I've forgotten where the other one was.
And
A lot of things I've forgotten. I remember a lot, but I've forgotten
yeah,
a lot.
when you came back to Freeport in the years after you moved here, did you ever go to the Nautical Mile?
No, I can't say I remember. I came back to a couple of reunions.
Mm-hmm.
Dick Schaap put on a couple of reunions for my class, and then in later years they had reunions in Florida because all the people still alive had moved to Florida. But at this point, I've lost track of uh, everybody who I knew in Freeport. I think they're all dead, but Schaap died in 2001.
And these days, do you live in South Carolina or are you in Florida?
Well, we had some reunions in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I went to one 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and a girl I had known at Freeport put it on, and I think there were 6 people there.
Oh,
I lost track of her. I think she's died since then. Problem with getting old is your friends die. You know, all my classmates that I knew well in college and in both high schools are gone by now.
but thankfully, libraries preserve history and photos and memories, and you could always look at archives and things like that. It looks like your background, it looks like you keep a lot of documents and papers.
Well, I've saved a lot of paper. I hardly threw any paper away.
Mm-hmm.
I have letters from my first wife that I probably ought to burn for my family reasons. Um, and I just gave 65,000 pages of material to a auto racing museum in Pennsylvania last week. I had collected writing columns about auto racing, writing the books, correspondence, all kinds of stuff. And I decided that if I didn't get rid of it before I died, my heirs would throw it away. And, well, the museum can throw it away if they don't want it, but at least it's somewhere that some will be saved. And that was my interest in sending to Freeport things I had. It wasn't going to be interesting to my family, I didn't think. So if Freeport can make any use of it, please do.
So my follow-up question to that is, which museum did you send the 65,000 pages to so people can visit it and see it who are seeing this video?
Well, there's some video. Mainly, it was correspondence and notes for the books. But any museum has the right to throw away anything they want to keep. But at least I made an attempt, and I think some of it is historically important. I hope so. And I've sent some stuff to the town where I graduated from high school in New Jersey. I sent Cornell University. I didn't have that much to send to Columbia, but I've been a class correspondent for years and years, and they have copies of all that stuff. Actually, I've got my first income tax return in 1952.
Wow.
Not all, but at least a 1040 form. I did a lot of work on my family's history and genealogy, and I would have loved to have had that kind of paperwork for some of my ancestors. But I like to do research. That led me, I guess, that was the chief thing about newspaper work. It wasn't just taking quotes from a politician, but a lot of what I did required research, uh,
Hmm.
sort of modern history. Uh, I did a lot of history about the atomic weapons tests in the water. Uh,
Hmm.
that I just have a degree of curiosity I have to satisfy.
Well, I've one more question or topic for you, if you don't mind, and that's what these days are you most interested in? What are your hobbies or what inspires you in modern culture?
Mainly modern culture annoys me. I do not participate in any social media aside from um, email on the internet. I don't have time to look at YouTube or TikTok. I don't even know what these things really are, but I don't have time. I'm too busy. I got to admit, I'm selling my sailboat because
Mhm.
neither Marianne nor I are really agile enough to do much sailing. And we could sail out on a calm day just fine. But if we had anything challenging, we were too stiff and sore to be
Yeah.
safe on a sailboat in a storm. But I was captain of a tall ship for about 10 years in Alexandria. Um, I quit that when I decided the ship wasn't safe, and they
Mhm.
sold it, and it sank. The guy who bought it sailed it off to Virginia Capes and didn't know how to handle it. He was fine inland, but not at sea. Anyway, it sank. One of my best decisions was not to go with him as his captain. And I have my own old race car, 1948 midget, that I used to race in vintage racing. I don't do that anymore, partly because driving on dirt tracks is a lot of work cleaning the dirt out.
Yeah.
But I go to Hershey, Pennsylvania, there's a big car show there, and run it a couple of laps on the paved track. And I like to do that. And I'll do that as long as I'm capable. And I'm still able to do that. I've been doing that since the 70s. Um, I guess my hobby now is trying to finish up my family history.
Mhm.
I did a lot of work 20 years ago, tracked the family back as far as possible to the initial immigrants. It's very difficult to track them back to the old world. Uh, they didn't have census in Great Britain uh, until the 1840s, aside from the Doomsday account, which was done in 1086, uh,
Mhm.
and I found relatives in that. Uh, but that's a challenge. I'd like to do that. That's what I'm doing really now, aside from trying to place uh, things as I did with Freeport.
Well, that's excellent that you are still interested in racing and the water all these years later. Thank you for contributing this historical information. I'll send you everything when it goes out. And I'm really excited to see that your archives are going to other institutions as well, and you're keeping history preserved.
Well, I that's my intention, and I just got a message from the Indianapolis Speedway Museum that they want some of my stuff.
Mhm.
Um, uh, I deal with a sprint car museum, um, places that I think might be interested. Uh, but I had this small amount of stuff dealing with Freeport, so that's why I sent it to your library.
Thank you for sending it to the library, and we appreciate what you've done, Gordon. Thank you.
If you have questions about the time that I was in Freeport, I'll be glad to try to answer them. So I said, we didn't go to restaurants very much, and the chief store I remember is Foreman's Hardware, Foreman's
Mhm.
Lumberyard. I don't know, they're probably gone. Um, and
Yes.
the house I lived in, I'm gone. Columbus Avenue was torn down 20, 30 years ago.
Mhm.
We were there. We were in Freeport 2 years ago, and it was sort of discouraging
Yeah.
that my old neighborhood was nothing like it had been. Uh, it's a little discouraging.
Well, if you come back, we'll make sure we take you to a nice restaurant. We'll take you to the Historical Society, the museum, the Arts Council. We'll show you all the good stuff.
Okay, if I get back to Freeport, I'll give you a heads up and stop by.